Local governance in Ghana is gaining roots as efforts are being put in place to improve it to be more effective. Recently, Parliament passed the Local Governance Bill, which aims at promoting decentralization by giving it the autonomy to operate. What does the Constitution say about local governance in Ghana?
The Constitution says that as much, I think chapter 20, Article 240 says that as far as possible, Ghana should have a system of local government and administration. It means that we have to push and push and push and push for that. And it's a commitment of government that we have to make our local authorities more responsive. Local authorities should not just be departments taking instructions or guidelines. They should be seen to be the local authorities or the local government that they are supposed to be, and then provide the requisite services that the community do. We've been practicing decentralization for close to about 30 years now. We started in 1988. The major people or the major stakeholders who practice it are the assembly members, the district chief executive, district coordinating directors. And therefore, sometimes it becomes very difficult to be able to assess all the laws that affect local governments. So this bill provides a one-stop shop for all the legislations that affect local government.
The bill is meant to really deepen the decentralization concept and to strengthen institutions at the assembly level. You know, like empowering them for them to be in position to really do their work without much interference from the center. And so in a way, this bill to me is to help win many metropolis out of the government angle, where government will have to supply everything.
What difference does the bill bring on board?
The Consolidated Local Governance Bill, which was recently passed by Parliament, attempts to consolidate, review, and amend 5 different legislations affecting local government administration in Ghana. First one is the Local Government Act, which was passed as far back as 1993. And then we have the District Assembly's Common Fund, which was also passed in 1994. Then we have the Local Government Service Act, which was passed in 2003. And we have the Internal Audit Agency Act, which was passed in 2003. And then the National Development Planning Systems Act 480, also passed in 1994. Many more functions are being developed, many more resources are being developed, many more staff or competencies are being transferred to the assembly. I think what we have to do, yes, we have to also empower the citizens to also know that these are the responsibilities of the local authorities. And therefore, if anything goes wrong, we should be able to hold them responsible. We shouldn't look up to only central government. Now, in holding local authorities responsible, citizens must also know that it comes with some responsibilities or obligations. You see, to what extent are we also helping the local authorities? Payment of our local taxes, property rates, and whatever. Because assemblies have to generate revenue to be able to. So, yes, for government side, I mean, we are very committed, and that's why we've been driving this thing. And that's why government says that we need to put the IMCC into law. To consolidate the gains that we have made, to empower it more. So from the supply side, there's a lot of work with that. But we need to work on the demand side so that we can have an equilibrium, supply and demand. And then we can see that our local government system is working.
There are a lot of gray areas in terms of our internal generation. And so you go there and tap the money and use that money to pay for the expertise. And once you pay for the expertise and you deliver on the ground, you win the heart of the people. Once the people see their expectation being met, it also raises their confidence in the way they pay their taxes and the way they pay their property rates. The more the people believe in the assembly, the more they see that whatever they pay in terms of internal generated fund comes back to them as a project. And so it's two-way affairs.
The bill is a welcome relief to all, especially to the key stakeholders in local governance. What is the impact on local government management?
As the name implies, local governance. So we are shifting away from local government to local governance, meaning that we are recognizing the role of many other actors, like civil society, traditional authorities, and other interest groups which are outside the mainstream state administration. They are all being given an opportunity to be part of the local governance. That is why the name has been changed from local government to local governance. In view of that, there's a major chapter. It's called Participatory Local Governance at the local level. There's a whole chapter on local non-state actors' participation in local governance. It details out how the non-state actors can participate in local governance. And this is something that we have not had over the years. Apart from Act 480, which said that citizens should be given opportunity to hear budget and then plans of the assembly, it doesn't give details on the how-to, and then the measures that are supposed to be put in place to ensure that citizens are given adequate opportunity. So this chapter in the bill actually provides a lot of focus on participation by the non-state actors. The bill also introduces the IMCC. The IMCC is an inter-ministerial coordinating committee. We've been operating it since 2010. By this time, we have made it into law. It was a policy decision, but now it's featuring in the law, which brings together all ministers that have a role to play, or the ministries that have been decentralized into decentralized, or their functions have been devolved to the local authorities. So all of them put together with the president as the chairman of the IMC. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development alone cannot drive decentralization, because decentralization is a cross-sectorial, inter-service arrangement, and therefore one minister or one ministry cannot be seen to be the driving force. So putting all the major or critical ministries together with the president as the chair of the committee will drive the decentralization agenda faster. And indeed, that's what we have done since 2010, where the president chairs on all the major decentralization decisions that have been taken over the years. So that is that bit on IMCC, which has also been introduced. There's a small clause that we have also introduced, which I'm sure many Ghanaians will be very fascinated about. At the moment, all staff who work in these assemblies are recruited from this office. The Local Government Service Secretariat recruits the staff. But we have put a clause in the bill that as and when an assembly becomes ready or is ready to be on its own, the Minister for Local Government can trigger a legislative instrument so that the assembly can hire and fire its own staff. So what it means is that in the very near future, assemblies will be on their own. They will hire the kind of staff they want. They will pay their own staff, and then they will be responsible for their promotion.
For me, it's the strategy. You know what you pick, and you know what you pay for. It's not about just because we've been given the mandate, we use it as a means of employing our cronies or our family members or our friends. No, it's about using that to bring expertise into the assembly to close that gap, so the assemblies will be more resourceful, will be more responsive to the needs and wants of the people. And so, yes, I'm happy about the bill, and some technocrats to a larger extent, if you look at their delivery, it needs much to be desired, because if we have that mandate to fire, I think that will also inject some discipline.
How will the passage of the Local Governance Bill improve the work delivery of MMDCEs and assembly members?
It will empower the assemblies to do a lot. Education will be under the assembly at the district level. And so at this point, the assemblies will also have to begin to become innovative. They will have to think beyond the box so that they can create and work towards good ideas that can help to develop the districts. Of course, they've been empowered, and they'll be measured by the performance of their work.
Having served as an assembly member for years, based on my experience, having taken office, I can tell you that all these departments like education, like health, like town and country planning, like other agencies that are operating within the assembly, we budget for them. We make sure they function. Even when the subventions doesn't come, they function. All the statutory functions of all the various departments, I make sure they function. The reason being that I represent the president here. And so the health, if they have to do some statutory function, I don't say the common fund is not in, so they don't have to do it. There will be a disconnect. Why do we generate IGF? And so you make sure you budget for them. You make sure their statutory functions are played. Because once the health sector slacks, it affects the community. And what would the community say? The government is not performing. And who is the government? I represent the government here. And so for me, having taken office, we are already working with education, working with health, we are working with town and country planning. And there's that harmonious way of the way we deliver. And so this is just a legal process to bring them under the assembly legally. But I can tell you for sure that we are working hand in hand, and we don't see how it's rather going to affect, but it's rather going to empower us and give us a challenge to move out of our comfort zone and generate more for us to be able to make sure they deliver.
There are two committees, essentially, at the district level. The Executive Committee and the Public Complaints and Committee of the Assembly. One is chaired by the presiding member, the other is chaired by the DC. Now, the Executive Committee has 5 subcommittees by law, all of them reporting to the Executive Committee. One of the things that we have realized in the old law, it says that membership of the Executive Committee should be 1/3. Now, if you look at 1/3 of an assembly, assuming that we have a total assembly of about 120, say 1/3, it's become so unwieldy. So now we have reduced that 1/3 figure to just 5. So the heads of the various subcommittees, they will not head they will not be members of the Executive Committee. We have also introduced a couple of very important departments and services which are going to be decentralized. Now, for instance, education and health, fisheries, they were originally part of Act 462 to be decentralized, and then Act 656 came and took them out. Education and health, we all know they are very important sectors that have to be administered at the local level. So this bill then recognizes that education and health are a devolved department, and therefore steps should be taken to decentralize them. So that's one new addition that we have added to the bill. The bill has also created many more decentralized regional departments. We didn't have that, both in Act 462 and Act 656. They were operating as deconcentrated central government agencies, but now the bill has made them as departments of the Regional Coordinating Council with oversight responsibilities for the regional ministers and the Regional Coordinating Council. Moving forward, the bill has also introduced a very important concept. We call it inter-service or inter-sectorial collaboration framework. Now, what it means is that when you go to a district or you go to a regional level, not all the departments there are decentralized or devolved. Some are devolved and they are departments of the district assembly. Others are deconcentrated and they still report up to Accra. And yet all of them are working in the interest of the district. Sometimes there's overlap. Sometimes there's this duplication. Sometimes there's resource wastage in the performance of the district. The local government service attempted to put together a framework which was more like a policy on how to relate these departments with the district assembly. What we have succeeded to do is to put this framework in the law. So now it's not compulsory that if you operate in a district, it is an obligation to collaborate, to disclose your plans, to disclose your budget to the district assembly. And the district assembly can also request for any information without you giving excuses that your bosses at the national level are not happy. Then another novelty, if you look at, and of late, Public Accounts Committee, you hear Parliament expressing worry about the uses of resources at the district level. One of the challenges that we have had close to about 30 years, that if you look at the internal audit report of the local authorities, by law, they are supposed to be, in fact, the recipient of the internal audit report of the assemblies is the Director General of the Internal Audit Agency. So he is sitting in Accra here, and he is the recipient of the internal audit reports of the assemblies. The General Assembly or the presiding member is just kept in the copy. So if you have been kept in the copy, you can't take any action, technically speaking. So what this bill is trying to do is to convert that and make the presiding members as the primary recipients. Because the presiding member is the speaker of the General Assembly. So they will receive the reports and take actions on them. So that the Director General of the Internal Audit Agency, the Minister for Local Government, NDPC, Local Government Service Secretariat, all we have to do is to receive as copies. But the primary recipient is the presiding member, who is the speaker or the chairperson of this assembly, and they will take action and ensure that they follow up on the audit report.
The future looks bright, but what more needs to be done for local governance in Ghana?
I'm very excited about the opportunities that are coming. So far, we have laid out the institutional and legal framework. Next year onwards, we are going to build on it. If you look at the Decentralization Action Plan from 2015 to 2019, it spells out what we are going to do from now till 2019. And the most important was to get these legislations in place, and then the others will follow. So from now onwards, maybe if you come and speak to me in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, I'm sure the system that we have will be near to perfection, and the future is very bright for our local government system.